Welcome back to the Top 6 show on the Football Terrace. City hosts Arsenal tonight in the FA Cup. A second bid is expected from the Arsenal for Moises Caicedo, north of the 60 million bid that was rejected today. Another bid from Chelsea for another player, Enzo Fernandez. They're returning with players plus more bonuses to try and sign him. Jadon Sancho returns for Man United. And it's a big weekend for Liverpool. Revenge or repeat as they go away to the might of Brighton, who absolutely smashed them just 2 weeks ago. I've got a brilliant panel on the show with me tonight. Neeks is here, repping Man United. Carefree Lewis is back again, talking about his Chelsea. Callum's here, talking Liverpool and their big, massive derby clash almost now with Brighton. Those mid-table teams going at it this weekend. He's here to give it his all. Premsy's on the terrace, backing Arsenal. And we've got Nobbins back again. Now, by the way, that's 2 City fans, 2 days on the bounce on the terrace. That is like a record for us. But how's everyone doing? Everyone good?
Yeah,
I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah,
all good, all good.
I didn't realize. I just realized now from the comments. Congratulations on reaching 300k.
Yeah, big up.
Yeah,
man.
Well done, bro.
It's been crazy. It's been a crazy, crazy last few months, and the best start to the year ever. Nice 5.5 million views in January, so can't complain. Can't complain. Going how I want it to. This is a big part of it, this show as well. So thank you to you boys and ladies and gentlemen tuning in as well. Really appreciate it. No better place to start than with Chelsea. That's what the viewers have voted for, with 43% of the vote as the first talking point. Chelsea are set to make a new bid for Enzo Fernandez. What are you saying, Lewis? I mean, you've made a lot of signings. The Madrid deals come in. You wanted Caicedo. Arsenal were gate crashing that deal. But it looks like you might be going back in for Enzo. Who would you prefer, Enzo Fernandez or Caicedo? Which of the two do you think would be the best fit for Chelsea right now?
For us, I'd say I'll take either personally. But if you're gonna put a gun to my head and make me pick, I'm going for Enzo Fernandez. I think that's a much rarer profile with much more traits that we're lacking in midfield. Like Caicedo is an unbelievable midfielder, but I do believe you can find more ball-winning midfielders if you do a bit more research. Whereas someone to have the ability to win the ball and have that level of passing range as well, yeah, you're not finding that many players like that. So I would rather us going for Enzo, but I just think both are a bit unrealistic at this point in the window. I don't think either of us are getting Caicedo personally. And for Enzo, I think it's too much for us to even try and pay and dodge FFP because now there's taxes involved as well. So it's like 160 million euros up top. I think that'd be a bit too much for either of us, but I guess you can dream.
Definitely. I mean, does anyone see this Enzo deal coming off for Chelsea? It fell away. They've come back in again. I mean, they seem to really. It's kind of weird they've gone this whole window without addressing midfield. Does anyone see this deal happening?
I don't think so. You think gonna happen? I think the fact that they're gone in for Caicedo kind of suggests to me that they've got kind of a limit that they're willing to spend, and I don't think Benfica on that player, that is. Obviously, there's no limit to what actually spending, but and Benfica's not going to budge. Benfica are not going to budge at all on the price, and if they see, if it's one or the other, Caicedo or Enzo, I think you're more likely to get Caicedo for a cheaper price than you would Enzo. Even if Arsenal are in for Caicedo, we know that doesn't really mean anything when Todd Bowley's involved, but I can't see Benfica budging, and Chelsea's not. 100 million euros is too much, man. I think that's too much. Even the Caicedo price is a lot, if you're going to ask me.
I think that if Benfica were in financial disarray, then maybe, but I think that Benfica are quite a financially stable club right now. They've obviously made a lot of money on the Darwin Nunez deal, for example. So I don't think they're in a position where they need to sell. So I'd be very surprised if they did push. What's their valuation? Like 130 million euros or something insane. So I think unless Chelsea are willing to meet that, which would be mad considering he's basically just had a good World Cup and that's it, I can't really see it happening.
From Benfica's perspective, they're top of the league too. I think they're like 5 points clear at the top. So they're not going to want to get rid of who's probably their best player in the middle of a title race. So I get it from their perspective. They don't want to sell. They've made it obvious, just pay the buyout clause and you can have him. Otherwise, we're not selling. And I don't think we can do it. So to me, I like that we're still in for him. But if we're not going to pay the money, we're just wasting our time here because he's not going anywhere and they're not lowering their valuation. We've tried offering less cash. We tried offering other players in loan deals, and they just don't want it. So I'd rather us just move on. We'll wait till the summer.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. I just feel like I can't write off what Todd Bowley does and when they spend, because the day before they signed Mudryk, everybody was kind of laughing at the idea that Chelsea would spend that much, that they would, no way, he's going to pick Arsenal no matter what they do. And then suddenly you kind of, that Saturday evening was a mad one. United had just won the Manchester derby. We were all getting ready to go out. Neeks and a few of the boys were all meeting up, and then suddenly man got picked up like he was like he was Andrew Tate and hoisted off in a jet, and he was suddenly a Chelsea player. It just happened, like no one expected it. Done, finished, out of there. So I don't know. I can't write off the fact that it could happen with Chelsea. But equally, as you say, they've gone for Caicedo, who is cheaper, and there's no noise yet that Chelsea are going to match what Arsenal are now trying to do, which we'll get onto a bit later in the show, increasing their bid for him. So they're kind of stepping away, looking elsewhere. There is talk of Onana from Everton, who are in absolute disarray. Sean Dyche is on his way in there, which will be interesting. Like, what about Onana to Chelsea? I mean, would that improve your midfield enough to give you hope of a top 4 or even a Europa League finish, Lewis?
I don't know. Like, he's a decent ball winner from what I've seen, but it's a bit of a drop off when you're going from Caicedo, one of the best midfielders in the league, young player at the tournaments for the World Cup in Enzo Fernandez, and now we're going back to Everton. I don't know. Like, it screams like old transfers. But even if we do bring him in, like, I can't go completely against it, because all of Christopher Vivell's transfers have all hit the ground running. So if he's looking at Everton and he wants to get a DM from there, I can't really say too much. I have to just judge him based on what I see at Chelsea, because Badiashile, for example, had so many questions when he first joined. Like, he didn't really look the most convincing at Monaco. There were mistakes in his game. It is early days, but he's fit into the team so easily, and we look so much more solid since then. Maybe he would actually come in and improve us, but it doesn't really wow you. So I don't know. Like, I'd rather us just not panic buy and get someone in the summer. Like, our target says top 4. I don't think we're making top 4. So we don't necessarily have to rush with transfers. I think we've done more than enough work for right now that if we do ignore the midfield, fine. Just make sure you get the right midfielder in the summer.
If you went in, though, for Enzo, I don't think that's a panic buy, to be honest, because he was one of your main targets right from the start, and you can't put anything past Chelsea and Todd at the moment. So 9 out of 10, they'll probably spend the money regardless and deal with financial fair play later on down the line, because this guy, he's on an absolute madness at Chelsea. The guy's come in and he's just spending so much money, bringing in. How many players have you brought in so far, Lewis? Is it like 15,
5,
16? Oh, 5, 6. I thought it was a lot more than that. Do you know what I mean, bro? That's the way this guy's moving on. It's linked to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's unbelievable. But obviously, just responding back to what the fella said above me, I don't know what your name is. I do apologize, bro. But when you're talking about Caicedo going to Chelsea over Arsenal, it depends on the player. If the player wants to really challenge for the league and want to be in a position to win the league this season, there's only one option to look at, and that is Arsenal. It's just whether Arsenal will put the money down or not to go and get him. Obviously, we've been reports of a £60 million bid being rejected. There is talks that he will, maybe go in and put a higher offer in. But we're going to have to wait and see. I don't think it's a competition all right now with a team that's holding hands with Liverpool in 10th and 9th or the top of the tree. To be honest,
I'm not here to defend Chelsea. My name's Nick, by the way, Man United. I'm not here to defend Chelsea. But what I would say is that Chelsea's history when it comes to transfers, since Roman first joined, obviously now they've got a new owner, the positions of the clubs often don't determine where the player goes. So when you think Roman came in 2003, Arsenal and Man United were the 2 top teams. Arsenal went unbeaten in 2004, yet Chelsea, because of how much they were willing to pay for players in terms of the transfer fee, how much they're willing to give in terms of wages, they were able to sign multitude of players above even teams like Manchester United, for example. And then they did what they did. And I think, yes, in the last 20 years, they've been the most dominant team in England. But if we even talk about the Mudryk deal, for example, yes, granted, they got a deal agreed with Shakhtar that Arsenal didn't. But that also comes down to it. yeah, the player might be willing. He might want to go to the team that's challenging for the league this season. But if Arsenal don't meet the price that Brighton want and Chelsea do, then the player's only got one choice to make.
Yeah, to be fair, that's what I was saying. But I think I have to agree to disagree to a certain extent, because as we've seen over the last, say, 10 years, Champions League football is what players want. When you're not in the Champions League, yeah, players then decide whether they want to move to that club or not. Now, Chelsea are in a position right now where Champions League football is not guaranteed. That's why these guys are moving now and fast and spending money now, because 9 out of 10, they're probably not going to be in the Champions League next season. And that will then have an effect on which kind of players will come into the club. So when players are going to be moving over to Chelsea now, yeah, it's facts, bro, because the bottom line is it's facts. Most of the top players that are knocking around, they want to play in the Champions League. Now, if you got an option to play for a team that's in the Champions League, or that's going to look like they're playing in the Champions League, to a team that's not, I know which one's more attractive. And I think that you got to bear that in mind as well. And I think Caicedo as well, he's going to be looking at the situation. Like you said, it's just down to whether Arsenal can put the money down to clinch its signature, which personally, I can't really see it happening. I think they want a lot of money, and Brighton ain't going to try to let go of a few players in the same window.
I think Chelsea's a different animal though, Premsy, because I get what you're saying about Champions League, but again, this is not meant to be a shade to Arsenal, but next season is going to be the first time you're back in the Champions League for a long time. There's no guarantees that you guys will continue to thrive next season and stay in the Champions League, whereas Chelsea, they may have a season out here or there, but when they're in it, they're competing for it usually. They've won it twice since we've been alive anyway. So it's like, I get what you're saying. If you were to say this about a Liverpool at the moment, for example, then I'd fully get you. But Chelsea's a different animal, because one, they'll overpay in terms of salary. They'll overpay in terms of transfer fee. But also, once they're in it, they're a problem to deal with.
Yeah, but that is totally different now, though. This is a new regime. This is what we've been accustomed to is seeing Roman Abramovich and what he does, sacking managers left, right, and centre because he demands success. Todd Bowley's come in with a Graham Potter and he's looking to build a project. You can't just bring in every single player under the sun, and nobody's sitting here psychic to say, you know what, Chelsea are definitely going to be in the Champions League next year, or they're going to be competing. Going off evidence and facts, what's happening right now, Arsenal are the best team in the league. And that is just facts. So you can't really see. Now, though. Yeah, but this is what I'm trying to say. You're going off evidence right now, innit? So if you're going off what's happening right now, if you're going off what's happening, just listen, let me speak, bro. If you're going off what's happening right now, yeah, then there's only one trajectory for Arsenal, and that's the probability that it's still going to be going, because we are strengthening the team right now, and we've got a manager in that seems to have got everybody on board. At the moment at Chelsea is a little bit all over the show. You don't know whether the manager's buying these players or the owners are buying these players. You don't know what system they're going to be trying to fit into. So it's a bit of a risk in it. Like I'm saying, just don't have your head set on Chelsea of old. Do you know what I mean? It's totally different to what it is now. It's a new regime, and you got to wait and see what's happening. Look, bro, they're holding up 10th and 9th with you holding hands down middle of the table.
But you can throw shade. You can throw shade, but this time last season you weren't doing anything. So if I had to say,
but it's all about the present, though, isn't it?
It's not all about the present. If you're it's not, because if I'm a player moving to a club, I'm looking for a 5-year deal, right? So I'm not just thinking about it now, because right now,
exactly, bro. So that comes back to the fact that I say 9 out of 10, Chelsea ain't getting Champions League football in this year.
But that's this season.
Now, and I think exactly. So if you've got a 5-year contract, bro,
one season doesn't change it. Because you guys were out of the Champions League.
You're not thinking about what I'm saying.
You still got Lacazette through the door.
Now, I'm just saying keeping it 110, and this is how it is, bro.
If you're out for 1 year, I don't think it makes too much of a difference.
So, Lewis, we were on a stream, on the best of the rest, and you said to me, you're right. The reason why players are coming in now and they're signing players now, because you're not going to get Champions League football. You said that, didn't you? And it's going to be difficult to then go and get players when you're not in the Champions League.
It will be, but to a point, because I think you can be out of the Champions League for a year and you still have some level of attraction.
You can. But what I'm trying to say is,
Chelsea could win it this season.
If you're competing with a team that are currently in the Champions League to a team that isn't, then you got to look at it. There's a bit more probability that they're going to want to go for the team that are currently playing in the Champions League, and that's just facts to me. Unless you're getting paid a ridiculous amount of money,
you're completely written off with 1 year off. If you're out for like 2, 3, 4 years, then there's a pattern, and you look less attractive. If it's 1 year, I don't think so. It's all speculative based on the situation at the club and what the long-term prospects could be. Like, we were 10th, we still brought in N'Golo Kante. We got David Luiz back from PSG. You guys, you got the likes of Lacazette, Aubameyang. Man United got the likes of Zlatan, Pogba. You guys can still get good players in spite of being out of the Champions League.
I do agree, bro. I do agree with what you're saying as well at the same time. But I'm just looking at the Caicedo deal, and that's the deal that I'm looking at. Arsenal have got a good relationship with Brighton when it comes to players, and right now in the present, who is the most promising opposition to go to?
Chelsea got a great relationship.
In what way do you have a good relationship with
Brighton? They took their cook, they took their scout, they took they're like
signed one player from Brighton.
No, we signed Ben White, we signed Trossard, so we've signed 2 players from them.
That doesn't mean you've got a good relationship. That just means you offered more money than anyone else.
There's a super chat here that says exclusive. Todd Bowley is offered 200 million, 150k a week. Build Brighton a new pier with a comfy bench, and bombs Brighton rivals Bournemouth and Southampton. Great show, an amazing panel as always. Thank you there, Guna Paul. Gareth also says Mudryk is a mercenary, twerking for Arsenal, then trying to banter Arsenal after signing for Chelsea. Does he realize he signed for a mid-table mediocrity and no Champions League? Is what Gareth.
No Champions League sounds like a certain club, but we move.
Salty man right there.
We're going to come back to Chelsea and Arsenal. We're going to come back to this debate later when we talk about Caicedo before we build up to the game. Viewers, let's get this stream past 1,000 likes while we're live, please. Just under 3,000 people tuning in right now, which is amazing. The next talking point, revenge or repeat. Liverpool away at Brighton. Brighton are hurt right now. They're losing players left, right, and centre. Big FA Cup tie against them. How confident are you feeling, Cal?
I'm as confident as I would be if I was going into a fight with Prime Mike Tyson, bro. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it at all. I'll be honest with you. Secretly, I was hoping Arsenal or Chelsea would have bought Caicedo by now because it would have made life a little bit easier. It hasn't happened, which annoys me about Arsenal and Chelsea because that could have been done by now. I'd be very shocked if we get anything from the game tomorrow or Sunday, should I say. We're just not good enough. Brighton, like that first game against Brighton where they beat us 3-0. I'm going to probably annoy a lot of Liverpool fans when I say this, but we were lucky that it was 3-0. That could have easily been a 6 or 7-0 win for Brighton. Like they had a goal ruled off for offside. They ran us off the park. I can't remember the last time we've been to a ground and from minute 1 to minute 90, whatever it was, we didn't do anything. There was a point in the game where Salah had the ball and I saw 5 Brighton players around him. Just to put that in context, there's 10 outfield players on the pitch. 5 of their players were around one of ours and they hunted him down and took the ball back and just pushed him off the pitch. And no one was around to help him. So our other 9 men on the pitch were hiding while Brighton's men were hunting the ball down, getting the ball back, popping it about, making it look easy and scoring goals. Danny Welbeck flicked the ball over someone's head and then volleyed it in before it hit the floor. The last time I saw someone do it was Gascoigne. What are we doing there? Danny Welbeck. Put that into perspective. We're absolutely shocking at the moment. And to be honest, if we get anything from the game, I'll be very, very surprised. I'll see us losing the game. Unfortunately, I see it being convincing as well.
Listen, when I thought you lot were lucky to get past Wolves, and I mean, I didn't watch the replay as much as I watched the first game.
Nah, the replay we deserve to win.
Yeah, I was a part of it, but when I saw
the first game we should have lost.
Yeah, 100%. But when I saw the lineup for the second one, I said, "Damn, Liverpool's out." So when you got through that in the replay, I thought, "All right, fair enough." But Brighton was always around the corner. Like it was never a case of let's get through this and we can maybe touch Wembley. Brighton was always going to be the tougher game, even if you got past Wolves. For me, yeah, your best bet because you're away from home, aren't you?
Yeah, but even if we're at home, it wouldn't have made.
I was saying your best bet is to take it back to Anfield, but I guess Anfield ain't the fortress that.
It's not because if we take it back to Anfield, it's another fixture we got to put into the fixture schedule, and we ain't got the squad to manage the amount of fixtures either. We're just in a mess at the moment.
We're all suffering from that, but yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Like I don't know what I would be interested to see what the bookmakers' odds are, but I expect Brighton. And that's strange to say. You know, you say, they got a chance. They're playing well. If Brighton don't beat Liverpool, they should be disappointed with themselves because they are flying right now, and Liverpool are struggling. They've got result. They've got golden results over Liverpool recently. Trossard getting a hat trick. It was last season.
All right,
Was it?
Leaks. We don't need to go into detail.
We got to reel it off, innit? Reel it off. I love it. But yeah, I expect there's a lot about both sides right now. Deservedly, I mean, yeah, Paul was holding them back.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game for Liverpool. I think Liverpool, and the reason I kind of want to speak about it is the Prem looks done for them. You look finished. Like, yeah, you've nicked a few games recently, but that's what you're doing. You're nicking it. And I'm working with Bleacher Report on deadline day, and they asked me to fit one of the things that we've got to talk about. They're doing the graphics for it was 5 teams that need a sign in and for what reason. And I've kind of got I think Everton needs some more firepower as they might go down. It's before I knew Sean Dyche was coming in, so I might change that. Palace not backing Patrick Vieira is crazy for me. But then I look at Liverpool and think £37 on Gufpo.
37 million, Terry. Don't
37 quid. That's a bar.
Sorry, I thought you
taking it for some Audi meal, bro.
The fact is, Audi's good. He ain't. Do you know what I mean? This guy, you get those £1 Tesco sandwiches with no butter on. Do you know what I mean? He's one of them. And you have bought no midfielders, and you're one of the teams where I think if you don't land a midfielder, if Liverpool don't get a midfielder in before the deadline day, you could be out the FA Cup this week. You ain't winning the Champions League. You're not making the Champions League next year. Liverpool season, literally in the next 3 weeks, could be done. It's not even February yet, and Liverpool season's nearly over. It is a thing of beauty. It's a thing of
Welcome
beauty.
to the club, bro. Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I mean, Terry, I'd love to sit here and be shameless and puff out my chest. You know what I was like last season when we were competing for all the trophies. I was shameless.
All of the belts and all them things there.
But this season, I can't. Everything you just said is spot on. However, what I will say in terms of this season, I'll be honest, we've got to kind of just write off. It's not the right mentality to have, but it's the realistic mentality to have. We're not winning the FA Cup, we're not winning the Prem, and we're not winning the Champions League. The priority for us now is to get new owners. And the reason I say that is because new owners will tell us whether it is the owners who are holding back from taking us to the next level, or if it's Jurgen Klopp and his loyalty that is holding us back from taking us to the next level. We need answers as fans. The only way we get that is by getting new owners. In terms of this season, I'll be honest, even if we get a couple of good results in the next couple of weeks, finishing top 4 for me is beyond what we can achieve this season. We've left it too late. And I know we had this situation back in 2021 season, but teams around us weren't as strong as they are now. You look at Tottenham, they're not having a good season, but they're still picking up points now and again. We're not even doing that. If I'm not mistaken, the last goal we scored in the Premier League was through Oxlade-Chamberlain in the Brentford game. Before that, we beat Leicester with 2 own goals. We're struggling to score goals. We're struggling to keep the ball in midfield. We're getting run through. I won't use an analogy because it's still quite early in the day, but it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, it is terrible. Predictions for that game right now. Viewers, I want your score predictions in the comments section. Who wins and by what score? Neeks, who you going with?
3-1 Brighton.
3-1 Brighton. Lewis?
I'm going to go 2-0 Brighton.
Nobbins?
I'll go 1-1, and then the replay, Brighton win on penalties at Anfield.
Premsy, what are you saying, Premsy?
I'm going to go 2-1 Brighton.
Wow. Cal?
2-1 Brighton.
I'm going to go 2-0 Brighton. Another stinker for the men up front. I'm going to go 2-0 Brighton. A lot of people predicting them to go out, and that's it. Imagine Liverpool's season being over before January end. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if anyone's watched Real Madrid this year. You can beat them, you know. I'm not saying you're going to win the Champions League.
All right, Meeks, let me ask
you,
you, how do we hurt Real Madrid then? Go on.
Nunes?
All right then. All right then. The fact that you had to look down and think about it, it says it all.
Yeah, it's peak for you guys. But I'm not gonna lie, it's beautiful to see. The fact is that a loanee from Burnley is doing better than Nunes and Gakpo. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Not better than Nunes.
The last 3 games, who's been the best striker of the 3?
Nunes was injured.
I can't. Well, exactly. Availability is the best. I can't.
That's shameless.
We can't judge Weghorst when he wasn't here. In the last 3 games, he's been better than both your players, and he cost £2 million, and he's from Burnley. It's great. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on with Gakpo personally. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, not very many people do, to be honest. It's a weird one.
It doesn't help when you bring on a striker and you keep the left winger through the middle and keep the striker on the left. I didn't understand that.
It didn't make sense that Harvey Elliott was doing up Ryan Giggs on the left wing as well, with no pace, no aggression, and no strength. Like,
mate, that performance, it was more what Ryan Giggs did to his brother than what he did on the wing, bruv. Like, do you know what I'm saying? It's one of them ones. One of them ones. Viewers, make sure like buttons are being smashed. You're subscribing. Speaking of returns, players returning, Jadon Sancho is back. The return of Sancho. What are you saying, Neeks? Do you think he's going to come back with a bang? Do you think he's going to have a Rashford-style resurgence, or are you not that optimistic?
I don't want to get too excited in it because we know we're Man United excited. The bad results are just around the corner. But no, you know what? I'm excited about this. And it's not even just the Sancho alone, him coming back, because we're not in a situation now where it's like, oh my God, we need Sancho, because if we don't, we're not going to get top 4. We're not going to win a trophy. Or, right now, Sancho would definitely help. We know we want signings. We're not going to get them in this January, but having another option, not to use a phrase, but it's like a new signing, because he's played a few games at the start of the season, hasn't been about from before the World Cup up until now. Last season he wasn't great either. He had a few games that he played well. So we haven't actually really got the guy that we bought. So if he ever does turn up, it's like, oh, we've actually got another option. We've actually got a player. And when you've got Rashford performing in the way that he is, I'm content with the way Anthony has been. He hasn't hit high heights, but in 6 months of what he's done, I'm cool with that. I know he's going to get better. Garnacho's coming from the academy, and he's done well. Pelestri's looked good the last 2 games that he's played. So having another out wide in the forward positions can only be good for us. And I hope he looks a bit slimmer and trimmer from before the World Cup to now. I hope that up there his mind's clear, his mind's set. Because if we got that working up there, then I think what he can produce on the field in terms of the options and for Ten Hag, the way that we're playing, it can only be a benefit. And I think having those options, Garnacho coming through, Pelestri, Sancho, Ahmad just won EFL Player of the Month, PFA Player of the Month. You have those options that pushes the other players to higher heights. Rashford, like one of the best players in the world right now, in form since the World Cup. If he has to fight to make sure he keeps his position because Sancho's performing and Garnacho's performing, that can only be a benefit. So we've got 2 games, Reading, Nottingham Forest, where you kind of should be winning both of them with ease. I want to see Sancho in both of those games. So I'm looking forward to it.
I hear you. Nobbins, obviously, Sancho come through your academy at City. He's not had the best start to life at United. A few good performances, but that's been about it. Do you think there's hope for him returning back to his best, or do you think this could be a full storm for United?
There's always a possibility. I don't really know what's happened with Sancho. I think there was a question mark of whether he was having some mental health issues this season. So, because I know he deleted all his social media at one point, so you'd like to think that he's got help and he's now put that behind him. So I do hope he's all right. And it's a shame because I think this season I predicted him to be the most improved player this season. I think he struggled in his first season, but that was adapting from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, and he sort of let me down in that respect of not coming through this season as much. As I say, maybe there's mitigating circumstances. My only fear, if I was a Sancho fan, a United fan, would be that in my view, the best form of Sancho was Dortmund Sancho, and the best form of Dortmund Sancho was Sancho on the left wing, and Marcus Rashford has nailed down that position quite comfortably. Sancho off the right isn't as effective. So the only concern would be Rashford is basically undroppable at this point, bar like an injury or something. So I just wonder, is is there going to be that much opportunity for him to feature that much this season with Rashford in the form he's in? Because Rashford, again, in my opinion, isn't as effective centrally or on the right. You need to play him on the left. And that creates a bit of an issue because I don't think Sancho was bought to be more of a rotational squad player. I'm assuming he was brought in to start consistently. But I think everyone's been taken aback by how amazing Rashford's been this season, myself included. So there definitely is a redemption arc in Sancho, 100%. But the fact that Sancho's, for me, his best performances were on the left. He can play on the right, but his best performances were on the left, means that the existence of Rashford is going to make it very tricky for him to do that.
What are you saying, Premsy? Because obviously, as a gooner, most gooners have a bit of an issue with Sancho and Antony and Rashford. Like very little nice words to say about them or encouragement. And I get it, you're rivals, but what's your take on Sancho's return? Will he come back with a bit between his teeth, or will he just fizzle away like a wet old fart?
Do you know what? I don't really have much bad words to say about him at the end of the day. I think if anyone's to get the best out of him, it's going to be Ten Hag. You've seen Ten Hag get the best out of players like Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw, bring in Marcus Rashford from the dust. So I think he's got to settle back into the squad, and there's no reason why he won't be able to take Antony's place if he hits the ground running, because for me, Antony, I'm just saying it as I see it, I don't think he's worth 90 million. I think he can't use his right foot. I understand players need a season or so to settle in the Premier League because it's a different league. But at the same time, he's played under Ten Hag before in his Ajax team, and you would expect him to understand his style of play by now. He can't take anyone on the outside, and it limits Manchester United to a certain extent, where if Sancho come in, Ten Hag can get the best out of him. There's an option for him to come and slot right back in on the right-hand side and maybe get something different up front with United. But obviously, if he has gone through mental health issues, then obviously wish him the best of luck. Obviously, I've dealt with depression and stuff like that myself, so I know how it can be. Somebody put in the comments before, how can you be having mental health issues, being on 350k a week? It doesn't matter how much money you have, you get me? It depends on the situation that you're in at the moment in time. So you got to give him an opportunity. He came with a lot of promise to United. He hasn't filled that potential, but at the same time, there is a player in him. You just got to find the right manager to get the best out of him, and I think Ten Hag can do it, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think the Antony one is interesting because, and I take both of your points on it, is that he wasn't worth 80, 90 million that we spent, because that wasn't even the price of him before the transfer window. We paid it because we ended up desperate at the end because our transfer strategy was a mess. But the fact that Ten Hag pushed for him, and obviously he's played under him before, that might limit Sancho. Now the question is, how stubborn is Ten Hag going to be? I don't have a big issue with how Antony's played. There are a lot of things that he can work on. The fact that he doesn't use his right foot is nothing to do with how much it costs or it's a new league. Like, you haven't got the right foot or you don't. But Ten Hag has to make Antony work because he pushed for him right up until the end of the transfer window. Does that then limit whether Sancho gets the opportunities that maybe he deserves, or Antony gets dropped when he should get dropped because Ten Hag has to make it work? So that's going to be interesting dynamic in itself. As it stands,
the club brought Sancho in for big money as well, innit? So
yeah, the club, but not Ten Hag.
Yeah,
and the people that brought him in, they may not even be here in 6 months.
Oh, well, the people that brought him in are gone. I mean, Woodward isn't here anymore. Like the people that
Mercer.
Yeah, but this is the problem you've got when you've had failed projects, is that you end up with these huge assets that you pay for that may not figure. And the reason that he's been sent away, the difference between Antony and Jadon Sancho has been, Antony's got issues going on the outside, but the rest of his game, the way he tracks back, the way he gets involved, the defensive work, the build-up play, he keeps the shape of the team. Those things are so important, but so often fans want to ignore them. Ten Hag's issue with Sancho wasn't that he couldn't create, wasn't that he scored a few important goals early in the season. It was the rest of his work outside of it. And he essentially told him, I know you're not choosing not to track back. You physically can't do it for 90 minutes and you need to. So this is on Sancho for me. Come back, do all the hard bits, that, you know, the hard, gritty, sort of kind of spectacular bits that you see Antony do, that you see Rashford do, and then deliver at the other end. And I don't think he will be stubborn as a manager, because if we're winning and we're growing further and further up the league, no one's going to care what Antony's doing to a certain degree. Rival fans will pick up on it, but if Man United this time next year are sitting top of the league, we've won a few trophies, we're playing brilliant. Who cares how much players cost? I certainly don't. Like, it's never been an issue in my eyes. So I just want to see Sancho come back and do his bits. On the mental health stuff, listen, he's not on 350 grand a week. It's 250. There are bonuses included. That's part of the reason why these footballers do get mentally ill, because they get abused online for things that aren't even fucking true. Like, that's the maddest part about it. A 350 a week's a madness. Well, yeah, it is. That's why he's not on it. Like, do some research. On Rashford, though, I want to ask a question before we move away from Man United. Why is this triggering so many people? Why are so many people angry about this celebration? I've seen threads from anyone and everyone showing it isn't his celebration, so he shouldn't be doing it, or it shouldn't be called the Rashford celebration. Why is that?
People have nothing better to do. No, I'm not even trying to take the mic. There are people out there who literally have nothing better to do rather than just get angry about silly little things. Like,
I saw it trending, and then I did a bit of research because I'm anal about this stuff. Question for you all: who invented the holding your shirt celebration? Or who?
Well, I know it wasn't Messi. Messi kind of popular.
Who's the guy that you associated with?
Messi. Was it Fekir who did it? Did Fekir do it first?
The first guy that did it was in 2009.
Oh, Janino.
2009 it was done, so it's not Messi celebration. Who is the guy that's famous for knee sliding? And what year was it, Premzy?
Thierry Henry, mate.
What year was it, Premzy?
2004.
2004. Just 5 years after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did it. His league final. And that's not a dig at Henry. This is it. I know other people are pointing to the head, but it's Rashford's celebration because he's made it iconic.
This is the internet for you, though, Terry, man. Everyone just loves to be keyboard warriors and chat shit in it. This is what the life's come to, man. And it is what it is. I think, obviously, Arsenal fans were probably a little bit rattled because he did it in front of the Arsenal fans. He ran over to the corner flag and did that celebration. And you know what? Credit to Saka. He did the exact same thing and we won the game. So happy days. But you just got to take it. At the end of the day, you score, in it. You do what you're doing in it.
I get it. It's just petty, and I'm being petty.
Can I just say?
No, I just want to say one more thing. Nobbins. Who invented the moonwalk?
Well, you want me to say Michael Jackson? So I'm sure someone else did it.
Yeah, it was. You all love Jeffrey Daniel? Jeffrey Daniel invented it and taught it to Michael Jackson. He was part of an R&B group called, I think they were called Shamala or Shamamar or something like this. It's like, it's not about who invents it. It's about who makes it iconic at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? I was going to give an Elvis example, but that will trigger people. But there we go. It's crazy. Sorry, you going to say something, Nix?
No, I'm going to say credit to Arsenal fans because I've looked back at when Rashford did celebration, and in the past, fans would have been throwing stuff and getting angry, and I didn't really see that. I think it's kind of, all right, he's cool, well done, good. Like the week before, when what's his name, Ramsdale celebrated in front of the Spurs fans, he bloody got a kick. So I thought, well, Arsenal fans, they're a bit more calmer now.
Too far away from the pitch, otherwise somebody would have got looking at it.
That's worry about. That's fine.
This is what I love hearing. Terry trying to police banter again. The problem is, bro, this is the maddest bit about it. When I see some people tweet stuff, I can see it's banter. But when people are like capital letters and like red-faced emojis, they're angry about it. Like, they're not bantering when they're literally spending 5 hours finding pictures of people that have done this before. And the crazy part about it is none of them do it how Rashford does it, where he runs and stops and then does it. So it's a madness to me. I just thought it was funny. But there we go. I'll take Detective Terry over Sherlock Holmes. Bro, it's not even about Detective Terry. It's literally about, like, I know that Henry didn't invent the knee slide, but I know the knee slide is Henry's celebration. But Alan Shearer is famous for doing this. But loads of people put their hand up and run. It's just crazy to me. There's some breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, that's come out from David Ornstein. Gabriel Martinelli has agreed a 4.5-year contract extension at Arsenal. Previous terms ran to 2024 with a 2-year option. Fresh deal in process of being finalized for the 21-year-old Brazilian attacker to extend his stay at Arsenal. Must be good news for you, Premzy.
Yeah, 100, bro. But it comes to no surprise. In my heart and my head, I know that Saka and Martinelli are going to be signing new contracts. It's Saliba's the one where, when that news comes out, we'll be a little bit more positive on that. But Martinelli, he's been great since he's came in for like 7 million, and he's just fitted straight into the first team. He was originally meant to go into the youth setup and build his way up, but he's came in, he's hit the ground running, and this season he's been one of the best left wingers in the league. So I'm happy. Good news.
Yeah, I bet. Fantastic news. And it actually brings us into our next subject that's been voted in for by the viewers. Caicedo to Arsenal. Obviously, we saw a £60 million bid this morning put in. I was very disappointed. The stream was going brilliantly, and then Ornstein tweeted it been rejected, and the stream just went meh. Everyone was like, no more excitement around it. But Premsy, to you again on him, is this if you get this over the line, is that it? Is the title yours if you sign this level of midfielder to bolster your ranks, having already got Trossard and a new centre back in as well?
I wouldn't say it's ours, but it gives us a massive help towards that title, 100%. Because the one thing that we've been struggling with is squad depth, and we know we're competing with Man City. They've got the know-how how to win the title. They won 4 out the last 5, and they can literally bring on their B team, and a lot of it will probably match up to our A team. So, in quality-wise, so you gotta look at it and think, if we do bring him in, then the board are backing Arteta. They really believe that we can go on and win the title. Otherwise, they won't be trying to spend this kind of money in January, because Arsenal, they don't really normally spend too much money in January. They normally make the big moves in summer, obviously barring a few with likes of Sanchez and Aubameyang and stuff like that. But we don't really make massive signings. But this is what we need to do, Terry. This is what we need. We need to bring these players in now, because it is all good and well thinking, you know what, if we had a midfielder in and Xhaka got injured or Partey got injured, this could have happened, that could have happened. Bring the midfielder in. If we lose it, we lose it. You get me? But there's no doubts, there's no regrets. We know that the squad is there and it can compete. We brought in a centre back, we brought in Trossard, and if we can bring in a midfielder, whether it's Caicedo or another midfielder, that's exactly what we need to do, because the likes of Eddie Nketiah are stead up. He's filled Jesus' boots. A lot of fans probably here as well were thinking, when Jesus gets injured, that's it for Arsenal. They're going to fall off. Eddie Nketiah ain't really going to do it. But Eddie Nketiah steps up, and he's shown, myself included, that he can be that guy to get the goals. Now there's a question, when Jesus comes in, who's going to start, Eddie or Jesus? So it's kind of problems that we need to have, and the good problems to have. The more players that you have in that can help you with that title push. And I think with Arteta being around Pep for a long time, and in that dressing room and knowing how to get over the line and win in certain extents, he will know that it's far from over. We have to bring bodies in. So it's good that we're being linked to him, but whether we'll sign him or not, bro, I'll be honest, it's looking a bit of a sticky one. I can't see Arsenal paying more than 75 mil for him, and it looks like Brighton want quite a pretty penny for him. So we're going to have to wait and see.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, I think Arsenal this January are learning from their mistakes of last January. Last January, 100. They were in a prime position to get top 4. Obviously, Tottenham just got a new manager. Man United were a mess. And they should have gone out and got a striker, which is what they needed. Didn't go out and get that, and they just missed out on top 4. They're in a position now where, and obviously in hindsight, you might say, all right, we didn't get top 4, but we didn't get a striker. But in the summer, we then got Jesus, etc. And now we're fighting for a title. Yes, the opportunity to get top 4 would always come again. And also the opportunity to win a title can always come again. But there's no guarantee next season Arsenal will be in this position that they're in now. You have to strike while the iron's hot. Yes, you didn't get Modric, and I felt if you're willing to pay 95, you should be willing to pay 100. But of course, Chelsea might have bumped up to 120. We don't know how far they were willing to go. But you didn't get him, and you went and got Trossard. The importance of strengthening this squad right now, while you're in this position, 5 points clear of a game in hand, you have to go out and get someone. And if Arteta midfielder, I'm not saying break the bank and mess up everything in terms of getting Caicedo, but if you don't get Caicedo for whatever price that you set, like you did with Trossard, go and get someone. Because if come the end of the season you get 90 points, and Man City get 91, you say, well done, great going, lads. And the next season you finish 3rd. So it's like you need to do it now.
This is what I was saying. There's no one's a fortune teller. No one can say what's going to happen next season, who's going to be in the Champions League, who's not, who's going to be in the running. But right now, you can only speak on the present. And as an Arsenal fan, I'm looking at the situation thinking, there's news come out that Mohamed El Nene is being injured and he could potentially be out for the rest of the season, which isn't good news at all. And that leaves us very short in midfield. Arteta's actually come out and he's been open and said, we do need cover in midfield. We are looking for a signing. And it's positive to hear, as an Arsenal fan, it's positive to hear that Arteta's actually coming out and voicing his concerns. That's aligning up to what the fans are. And if we can bring him in, like I said, bro, it'll be happy days. There'll be no regrets in it. If we lose it, we lose it. We lost it to a better team. But it is what it is, man.
In terms of the deal, so this is what kind of a roundup of this afternoon's reports is that Brighton and Arsenal are still negotiating. And I mean, that tells you they're willing to sell, because it wouldn't be a negotiation unless they weren't willing to sell. I know there's a lot of Brighton journalists saying it's not for sale, stop bidding, it isn't going to happen. But one journalist has gone on to say that Patrick Berger has said that Arsenal were keen to improve on their £60 million offer. Cal, like when you look at the finances that Arsenal are investing in him, he's valued on the market at about 30 to 35 million. They're looking to pay pretty much double that. Do you think that matters? Are they overpaying for the player? Or is this just a case of money doesn't matter, get it done? And if so, is Caicedo good enough to move the needle at Arsenal, in your opinion?
Oh, two good questions, Terry. Me personally, I've always been of the mindset that if you want a player, then again, within reason, that's the price of the player. It's not necessarily their market value. Very rarely do you get a player for market value or below market value. You usually always have to end up overpaying. You're buying an asset from someone else who doesn't necessarily want to sell that asset. So you're always going to have to pay more of a markup. I don't think we'll know the true answer to the first question, Terry, until he's there and we see where they finish this season or how he performs. But if you look at what they've got in midfield now and you add Caicedo to that, then you're definitely doing the right thing. You're going in the right direction. And Nick said it before. I'll also speak as a Liverpool fan where we've had chances to win the league or win certain competitions. And in January, we kind of slept on the team or the squad and then ended up coming short. As Premsy said, you're better off going all out and trying to win it and trying to bolster while you're hot rather than sitting back on your laurels and thinking, I'll take a little risk here. For me, there's less of a risk in paying the money for Caicedo than not paying the money for Caicedo at this point. In terms of what he does in moving the needle for Arsenal, I personally think he takes Arsenal up a level. Again, no disrespect to Arsenal, I think you take Partey out of the team, especially with how he's playing at the moment, and they could become very vulnerable in midfield. What he allows you to do is rotate Partey now, but also allows you to play a double pivot if you want, and Odegaard as a 10. He allows you to play on the right-hand side as an 8 or the left-hand side as an 8. He comes in and he covers 2 of the 3 midfield positions, and he does it very well to a high level. He's still young, very mobile, very quick, strong, good on the ball, got an eye for goal. I don't think Arsenal are doing anything silly here. I think it makes a lot of sense them going for this type of player and this profile.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good piece of business. Obviously, from a City point of view, Nobbins, you haven't bought anybody in. They're clear of you right now. This has been a bad January from your perspective, that your biggest rivals for the title have strengthened 3 key areas. And again, if they get Caicedo over the line, it's 3 key areas. The strength in depth question is therefore answered. How are you feeling about it from that point of view?
Well, to be honest, I mean, it's out of City's hands at the end of the day. Like, if Arsenal want to sign players, they're going to sign players. From a City perspective, I don't think City need to bring anyone in, really. I think they just need to get the current players back to the form of like last season and the season prior. So it's obviously, from a City perspective, a shame that Arsenal are involved in these exciting deals. Like, I know the Modric one didn't come up, but such as that one, and now Caicedo, Trossard's come in as well. But I think that all City can do is just focus internally and focus on themselves. As I say, there's nothing City can't really. Well, I guess City could influence it by arbitrarily bidding for Caicedo for no reason just to spite Arsenal, but that's obviously not happening. Yes, I guess a little bit worrying, because I guess the thing that rival fans been clinging on to is that their depth isn't good enough. A couple injuries, they'll fall apart. But they've clearly they're clearly rectifying the areas of their team and squad depth which need improving. So yeah, obviously a worry, but honestly, I was worried about Arsenal even without Caicedo.
I get that. I mean, but you could respond yourselves, because you guys ain't playing very well, and you've got a lot of players that are underperforming. You're not playing very well. I mean, I had Big Steve on yesterday, and I know that doesn't mean you have to agree with him because he's a City fan, but I said we're not at our best. We're not playing, and that isn't taking nothing away from Arsenal. But I've watched every City game this year. You've had some matches where you've looked brilliant, but you've looked vulnerable, in my opinion, in 90% of your games. You've got Luke Chadwick, who carries the ball well, but does very little else with it on the left-hand side. And
I just caught what you said.
That's true. He is Luke Chadwick, and we know why I call him Luke Chadwick is because City would win titles with or without him. He's an irrelevant piece of the jigsaw. He's just there. Like, he's better looking than Luke Chadwick. That's all Jack Grealish has got. But yeah, like, you could buy someone to improve this City team. That's what you've done before.
Who? What position?
So that's why I was going to chime in. I think you could do a tricky winger, to be honest, because look, I'm a big fan of Haaland, a massive fan actually. Even annoyed that you guys got him, but I think to get the best out of him, you need a Sane type player. Like when Mahrez isn't playing, it feels though your approach play is really slow. And I know Mahrez and him haven't necessarily clicked until quite recently, but as things stand right now, it's sort of like you just hold a deep line against Man City and you just kind of watch Haaland, where you haven't got that winger who can maybe take a defender or two out of the game, create a bit more space for Haaland, and then he just gets on the ends of things and does what he does best. I think if you had a Sane, even a Sterling, who could just get in and amongst some of the goals from the wide areas or give the defense something else to think about. Foden's fantastic. I think Grealish is a lot better than what people give him credit for. Mahrez is excellent on his day, but I think you're lacking that true winger that really puts the fear of God into the other team.
Saka only has a year or so left in his contract. They're your title rivals. Go and get him in it. Put the money.
Your glasses are steaming up, fam. You allow it, fam. You allow it. I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
I'll be honest though. If Arsenal didn't have a good season this season, I think Saka would have been off there.
Nah, no way, bro. He's an Arsenal boy through and through, man. It's not happening. I'm telling you.
Andy Gordon's yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with Terry's thing of City aren't playing well that season. We're only 2 points worse off compared to last season. I think that's actually a little bit downplaying what Arsenal have achieved. Let's look at the Premier League table. Arsenal are currently setting Centurion pace. We're halfway through the season. They've got 50 points. City of last season would be behind Arsenal by 3 points. We're only 2 points worse off. There have been, I accept there have been some lackluster performances, which I can't really explain. But at the same time, I do think it is getting a little bit blown out of proportion. We've scored more goals compared to last season. The issue, I'm not sure I agree with it being a winger issue, because I think Grealish and Mahrez have been some of our best players. The issue is the issue is a defensive one. We've conceded 8 more goals compared to last season. And if you look at City games, most of the time it's from really weird individual errors. For example, you think of the Liverpool game, Cancelo for no reason drops a clanger and just allows Salah to go through. In the Everton game, Rodri gives the ball away in midfield for no reason. I know it was in the League Cup against Southampton. Sergio Gomez gives away the ball for no reason, and then Ortega's off his line. So I don't really agree that City have been really bad this season, or really bad compared to last season. They've not been as good as last season, 100%. But even if City were as good as they were last season, Arsenal would still be in the lead in the Premier League table, because they've been nothing short of excellent.
They would. I'm not taking anything away from Arsenal. I'm talking purely about when I watch City. And yeah, sometimes you look at how many goals you've scored, what you conceded, the points, that gives you an idea. I'm talking about a drop in the perspective and the spectrum of a title race, not comparing you to everybody else, because you're still better than everybody else but Arsenal. You're still better than Man United, even though we beat you the other day. But when I've watched City play this year, you don't seem to hold on to the ball as well. You seem less dominant in games, less scary, and easier to attack and get to. And I think that part of that is getting used to playing with a poacher type striker who runs off the shoulder like Haaland. And maybe you could have done with somebody else. I'll tell you who I think could do brilliantly for you playing behind him. As an example, someone like a James Maddison, someone that can give you a little bit of extra creative flair, can help link the play up a little bit better, hold the ball up in those areas. And that's just an example for you. But I kind of look at it like, if Arsenal go on to win this league now, and a big part of it is these 3 signings that give them that strength. If you guys have just sat there on your hands, you could have reacted to it as well. As much as you could bemoan Arsenal last year and say, well, they should have gone and got a striker, they'd have made top 4. If you guys don't respond and don't act and don't bring somebody else in to improve these areas, you could be not giving away a title, because that's disrespectful. But I don't know if you're City with the money you've got, and however it is you get your money, that you can buy whenever you want. Just buy someone. Do you know what I mean? For me, I'd be screaming at my club to improve further to win that 3-peat, because a 3-peat it's the greatest. It's the greatest achievement club-wise in Premier League history. Winning 3 on the bounce. Only 2, doing it is so difficult and so hard. and you got the opportunity of matching what one other team has done, and you may be about to get pipped. And I think you maybe should just throw in a bit more out. And you see Arsenal spending 60, maybe more than 60. It's probably going to be somewhere nearer to £70 million plus on Caicedo, nearly 30 million on Trossard. I just feel like City should be doing something similar as well, in my opinion.
Do you know what, Terry? Obviously, I'm gonna have to get off in a couple of minutes or so because I'm gonna be going to the Arsenal City game as well. So just to give City a little bit of backing there, I think the difference between Arsenal and City, yeah, I understand that people might think they're not playing the same kind of ways, just because for me, it's down to a new style of play, a new system fitting Haaland in the team. I think Arsenal have had to go out and buy these players. We don't have that squad depth where City do. It's just the players ain't performing at the same kind of levels that we've been accustomed to. So I don't think City are going to probably struggle too tough, because when it comes to the summer window, players like Silva, maybe Godogan, a few other players might leave, and that's probably where they're going to do their business. But I think it's totally different, man. I think Arsenal, they just got to get their credit as well. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Arsenal fan and being biased. I think we have actually been the best team in the league. And is it Nobby? Nobbins? Oh, sorry, my bro. Obviously, like you said, it's just they're 2 points off where they were last season. And it's just probably down to what Arsenal's doing right now.
I mean, what I would say is no one can accuse me of not giving Arsenal credit this year. I've actually been abused for giving them too much credit, which is crazy. But I'm just talking about it from their perspective. Listen, Premsy, definitely going to get you on the show again, mate. Excellent stuff from you.
Can we get a prediction from Premsy?
Yeah. Prediction for tonight's game from you.
Do you know what? I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I'll be honest. I think I'm going to keep it 1-10. City are the favourites to going into this game. They're at home. You can't take anything away from City. We don't really normally have a good time there. Every time I go to the Etihad, I'm coming back fucking upset. But it's just that situation where I just know for a fact Arteta's he's gonna make some alterations to the team, and whether it's still gonna flow the same way or not, we're gonna have to wait and see. But I can't see why we can't come away with a draw, even though I would not want to draw that game and have another game on our hands. But I'm gonna go 2-2, boys.
There we go. Top man, Premsy. Thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say.
My guy.
Big up to yourself.
Thanks, Premsy's out, and Jessica Black is in here as a substitution for him. Welcome, Jess. How are you?
I'm good.
How's your day been? What you been up to?
Arsenal stuff. You know this. Like,
I know. Just trying to like create the illusion that we're not right now in the same house next door to each other in rooms. But yeah,
not working.
She was live before she came.
I know. Going live at the same time.
Taking all your viewers.
It's disgraceful. It's what she does. It's what she does now. Do you know what I mean? Just eats my food as well, like everything. Do you know what I mean? I keep saying nice. The other day, she did. I like eating garlic bread with a nice bit of pasta and proper food. The other day I come home and I'm gonna have a bit of that pasta with some garlic bread. She just ate the garlic bread by itself. Mad. I know. It's terrible.
It doesn't get easier, Terry. It doesn't get easier, bro.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. Jay, the second bid is going in for Caicedo. Are you happy? And I want to ask you if you're happy, because I know you got a lot of stick. You got a lot of stick a week ago, 10 days ago, however long ago it was. Nearly 2 weeks ago now. You were getting a lot of stick because you kind of said you weren't directly annoyed you didn't get Mudryk. You kind of reserve your frustration. Let's see how the board react, the club react. Let's see if we spend that money improving other areas. And I know you've got to get this over the line, but you've essentially you're looking like you're going to spend that 100 million for Mudryk on Caicedo, Trossard, and this Jacob fella at the back, this centre back. How happy would you be with that business, and how confident are you then going on for towards the rest of the season with those improvements to the squad?
If I'm 100% honest, I'm happy now. After Mudryk didn't go through, I didn't think we would do anything. I thought when the Declan Rice news came out, I thought it was kind of smelly. I was like, are you doing this so that we're not upset if you don't bring anybody in? Then we got Trossard and a backup for Gabriel, and I thought, okay, that's probably good enough for what, for the rest of the season. I know we still need a midfielder, but that's more than I would have ever envisioned Arsenal doing anyway. Maybe my standards are too low, but going in for Caicedo, at least trying to get a midfielder. We also tried to trigger the release clause for Zubamendi, and we may go back in for that as well if Caicedo doesn't work. If we were able to bring in a midfielder, I would just be over the moon. especially with El Neni having somewhat of a long-term injury, like bringing in a midfielder and sending Sambi out on whatever little loan would be more than my little heart could ever have desired. So yeah, I'd be happy. And then would I be confident? One of my biggest concerns about Arsenal going into the back end of the season was not necessarily the experience bit, it was more about the depth bit, you know, if somebody gets injured. So that would solve a lot of my, you know, questions around can Arsenal sustain if Partey, Gabriel, Saka, somebody like that is out. And so, yeah, I'd feel confident that we could challenge City all the way, you know, to the end. So, yeah, I'd be excited. But I'm not sitting here like, oh, my gosh, Caicedo is coming in, because I just know Bully is lurking around in the shadows somewhere, just waiting for us to agree a fee so that he can come in and say, I'm going to pay it all up front. You know what I mean? So.
Well, that's the fear. And we kind of touched on it earlier, Lewis. And I wanted to come back to you on this when we got to this subject. But like, there must still be that. It feels like Arsenal were taking the lead on this when you read the news, but you know the way your owner works. Like, there's no doubt, that he might just wait for Arsenal to agree 72 million and then go, right, we'll pay you 73 million, but we'll pay more of it up front, better structure, and plus we'll pay Caicedo 80 grand a week more. That could realistically happen, couldn't it?
Yes and no. Like, I could see if they accepted something from Arsenal first, maybe Chelsea come in with a much bigger bid to try and blow them out of the water. But I just don't think either of us get him. Like, I think Brighton put him up for 100 million, literally just to tell both of us to F off, because Brighton have lost enough over the last 6 months. They lost their scouting network. They lost their player of the season. They lost their manager. Like, and they're still doing well this season. So, and even they lost Trossard to Arsenal just last week. So I just don't think Caicedo goes anywhere. I'd be very surprised if either of our clubs take him. I think just the pair of us are being priced out until the summer.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works. Viewers, we want your thoughts. We want your feelings on that. Ahead of tonight's game, though, I'm going to go to a rival first. Neeks, what are you saying about tonight's game? Firstly, do you think this result of tonight's match will have any bearing on the Premier League season, or is this just completely ring-fenced and isolated by itself?
I'm actually gonna kind of take. I can't remember who it was. It could have been someone. It was someone on TalkSport. I can't remember who said it, but I kind of shared these thoughts. It might have been Martin Keown actually. If City win, like by 1 or 2 goals, I don't think it makes a big difference. I think, the only thing that really makes a difference for me is an Arsenal win or a City battering. So if City win 4-0, then I think Arsenal and their fan base and the players and the manager, they're gonna have something to think about. They might not be fully quaking in their boots, but it's shaky. They're on shaky ground at that point. I think a narrow win is like, well, you know what? They're still a great team. We're away from home. It's kind of even maybe expected. You know, even if it was at the Emirates and City won by 1 goal, you say, City's still a great team, but we've got this gap. That's the most important thing. We've got this gap. A battering from City or an Arsenal win for me are the only things that can impact the title race. Other than that, I think it's and I think that's regardless of what team goes out. Well, regardless of what teams they put out, if it's a narrow victory for City, Arsenal can still be confident to get a result at the Emirates. And I think Arsenal only need to get a result. Even a draw at the Emirates puts them in a great position to win the league, because they could lose that game to City at the Etihad and still be 5 points clear if the results stay the same come April. So those are the only things that for me that shift anything. So it'll be interesting. I like to see a battering, just for the tail.
Of course you would.
Yeah, you have to ruffle the feathers sometime, man. Shake it out. Everyone's too comfortable. It is. Arsenal too comfortable right now. Yeah, no one can talk to us. The best team in the world, best team in England, and City are like, oh, I am because I'm supposed to. And City are just like, well, I don't really hate Arsenal, and it's Pep's guy who's top of the league. And look, yeah, we got Arteta top of the Premier League, we got Company top of the Championship. Brother, you are not winning. Like, focus on yourselves. Don't focus on the pros. City need to be ruffled, or Arsenal to be ruffled. It's too calm right now. So yeah, I need to see something exciting.
Nobbins, how do you feel about it tonight? I mean, are you confident going into this game? Are you worried about the ramifications of a bad result for you?
I think it depends. And Nick should say himself in terms of the result. I think also for me, it does depend on the lineup. If both, because it's the FA Cup, so I don't really know how Arteta's going to approach it. I wonder if he will go full strength, or I wonder if he'll have his just eye on the league and just want to heavily rotate. But if both sides go for it in terms of their lineups, then I think it will tell us something. And I think if Arsenal win, and it's like, strong starting 11 versus other starting 11, I think that's huge. If I'm Arteta, I'm saying, look, we've got to play them twice, and all the pressure's on them, and we've just beaten their best team, so there's no reason why we can't do it. If both sides play a relatively weak, well, not weak, but rotated starting 11, then it probably doesn't really tell us anything, because both sides can just go, oh well, I know we lost, but whatever, we were playing, I don't know, Calvin Phillips at left back instead of like what we actually should have been doing. So I think it does depend on lineup, and I think that Arsenal probably have less to lose and more to gain than City, if that makes sense. If City win, no matter what happens, I don't think it really tells us anything. I think if Arsenal win, if Arsenal lose, again, they'll just go whatever. If Arsenal win, then I think that would be huge, and I think that could really spur them on in terms of the Premier League games as well.
I'm going to say this, though. The only thing I kind of disagree with is, like, we're not going to really care what kind of lineup you put out there. If we win, it was your best team to us. We don't care. Okay. And we're going to take that and run with it, because it doesn't matter. Even your like second team is really, really good. So
unless Sergio Gomez starts.
Who?
Sergio,
oh yeah,
exactly. Who?
Yeah, the left back. No, I hear what you're saying. I do think that Arsenal have maybe more to gain, but from an Arsenal perspective, even though we have you so early on in the FA Cup, I do feel like there's a level of like almost we need to kind of get something or really push or show something, because this is the competition that's so near and dear to so many Arsenal fans, like hearts and stuff like that. And we haven't really gotten over the City test yet, so I think there is some pressure on Arsenal there in terms of like, I can feel in the back of my mind, if we get battered or something, that I feel like we haven't turned the corner like I thought we did, because we shouldn't be getting killed by you guys at this point, so there's stuff for Arsenal to lose, but I understand like it's more about Man City. Like, I get that part a bit as well.
What are you saying, Lewis? What's going to happen tonight? Who's winning this game?
I'm not too sure. It's really hard to tell, but big up Callum, bro. Take care, man.
Cheers, Cal. Cheers, bro.
Bless you guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's really hard to predict with them, because do both sides take it seriously? Do they both rest their key players with bigger fixtures coming up? I'm not too sure, but I do still think it will be Manchester City at the end of it. Mainly just from personal experience. I think they're just a lot more comfortable when they're playing at their own home stadium. And I think maybe for Arsenal, the priority would be a little bit more towards the Premier League than the FA Cup. I think if they do come out of the Cup early, it probably suits them more in the long run. So I would push towards Man City, but it could really go either way. But I'll say City.
I don't believe in all this, though. Going out of cups is helps you in the long run. Like, we went out of the FA Cup really early last season to like Nottingham Forest, and so many Arsenal fans tried this whole like, oh well, that's good because we have one last game and we can focus on. We still missed out on the top four. I don't think it helps us. I think we need momentum and confidence more than less games, if that makes sense. And I know that's like, well, what if you get an injury? What if this? We don't know where we're going to be in a month. This game is so important mentality wise for me and for Arsenal. I don't buy into this like prioritization nonsense. It's for me.
Sorry, I was going to say, Nick. Sorry, I got you in a second. But I saw Arsenal fans last season, and Agal was one of them that changed the tune on that twice. So all season he was like, we can make top four because we're only playing one game a week. And the back end of the season, there was a lot of concertina fixtures because of, remember, all the games that were cancelled because teams were exploiting the COVID rule. And I said, and I remember asking on a top six show, how do you think you're going to cope with that? And he went, actually, been like listening to things and researching them, playing like 3 games, like playing a midweek game. So 3 games in a week, essentially, like a weekend with game. It keeps the flow better. So I think we'll actually do better. And I'm like, that's after you, man, were preaching that one game a week was better. This last week, you had you had like United being bantered that they had 3 games in a week, and they had that match against Palace in between City and Arsenal. And then Gooners are like, well, actually, no. But then I heard Arsenal fans literally say, well, that's no excuse because you're in better flow if we have more games. Now I'm hearing some Arsenal fans say, I want to go out the FA Cup so we've got less games and can focus on the league. So what is it? What is better, less games or more games? I keep hearing this change all the time.
All depends on the strength of your squad, personally.
For me, people, I think, change it and they try and work it out. It's a strategy. Go, right, how can I create an excuse for losing? Or how can I try and create an argument to prove we're going to win the league ahead of time? And that's how I'm going to do it. I don't think people will ever, never consistent with this. I think 2 games a week nonsense.
Chelsea won the league. Chelsea won the league under Conte in
16-17, yeah.
Yeah, 16-17. Yeah. And they were out of Europe. And ever since then, this notion that, you know, I'd rather be out of Europe than in it if we're not in the Champions League because it will give us a better chance in the league. When the teams in the top 4, top 6 will win the league, they're always in European competition because they're the best teams. So the notion, other than Chelsea, and Leicester did it, but did Leicester do it because they weren't in Europe? No, Leicester went.
But this is about the size of the squads. That's like because Leicester and Chelsea didn't have great depth, but they had a good. Yeah,
but 11. Leicester didn't. But I don't think Leicester didn't win it. But you said that about Chelsea. Chelsea won the league 2 years prior with similar depth, being in all the European competitions under Jose.
Yeah, that was 14-15 though. 16-17, it wasn't the same team. Like there were similar players, but it wasn't the same team.
I think obviously this season there's going to be a lot of there's more fixtures kind of piled up because of the Queen's passing and the World Cup. So this season, probably more than any other, I think the squad depth, not that it's never tested, but it's going to be strained more than usual. But I think generally, if you're going to be going for a title, you've generally got a good squad. And you should be fighting on all. For me, you're going to play your best team in every single game. But it shouldn't be a case of, well, you know what? We're going to put the kids out today so we can play 11 players on Saturday and then the next Saturday. You're going to, you should be able to rotate your squad, maybe 5 changes in a Europa League game or 4 against Man City, and still be able to deal with Premier League fixtures. I think giving up on competitions, especially in January, I think that's too early.
If Arsenal or City win tonight, they are then the favourite, the best team remaining in it, and that's another trophy. And the only, I look at it this way: the only commodity our club's speaking. Listen, you know, invincibles and trebles and centurions. All of this is brilliant, but none of it matters more than actually having trophies. And Arsenal already have more FA Cups than anybody else. So why would you not want to pull clear in that category? Because my view is what I want for Man United. It's my lifelong dream that when I die, we have more leagues, more Champions Leagues, more League Cups, more FA Cups than every other club in England. Then we're untouchable. I don't care about your goal scoring record, your unbeaten runs. If we've got more trophies than you, we are a better club than you. And this notion of dropping trophies and not wanting to win them. At the same time, our fan bases laugh at teams like Tottenham for not winning trophies. I don't like the hypocrisy in it, making excuses for failure. Go out there and fucking win, 100%.
Yeah. So I was talking about this earlier, and people were like, obviously, they didn't like the question, but or my statement, but I stand by it. Like, you don't really remember all the times you finished in the top 4, but you remember the times that you won a trophy, whatever that trophy is, whether it's the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, who cares? You remember that. You don't remember the time that you finished second. And for me personally, like, if you looked at it and we dropped off from here and we finished second, but didn't win any trophies, but, you know, Man United go on to win the Carabao Cup, which I think they will, and they finished third, I think you can argue that that might be a better season, you know? So Arsenal fans need to, like, get real. Like, that is a Tottenham mind state. Like, oh yeah, like, just being in and around the competition is fine. I'm not saying our season is like the worst season ever, but we need to be winning trophies, period. And the FA Cup is so important. And I don't want to hear prioritize the Europa League either, because that's not a Champions League. You know, the FA Cup is so important. Like, I don't understand why we're writing it off every season.
You just don't know where you're going to be in a couple of weeks. Like, okay, exactly. you get knocked out to Man City. Barca beat Man United. You draw Barca in the next round. You're out. So then now literally all you got is the Premier League, and it's just like I think you just want to be. You want to. Winning is important. I think winning breeds confidence, and you know, depending on how. So let's say you play a weak team and get battered. to Man City, does that affect you going forward? Whereas if you put out a stronger team and maybe get a win, that can have a benefit as well. So I think, yeah, I'm not saying full strength everywhere, but try to win.
Arteta will go pretty strong. Like Arsenal fans that are like deluding themselves into it's going to be kids out there, get real. Like Arteta is not about to. No, he's playing Pep, and hasn't beaten Pep yet. Like outside of the FA Cup, not with this team, not with this squad, not at the Etihad. Like he needs to go out there and do something. So it's going to be a strong squad. I'm pretty sure.
It is. We're going to get some score predictions on this, and then we're going to do something fun, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be looking for the panel to give us their player of the year, most improved player of the year, manager of the year, young player of the year, and then the under and over achievers. That can be a club manager or player. That's still to come on the Football Terrace today. Make sure like buttons are being smashed. But Neeks, what's your predictions for tonight? City versus Arsenal in the FA Cup.
I am going to go 2-1 City. Yeah, 2-1 or 3-2. I'm going to go 3-2. I'm going 3-2 City. Yeah.
3-2 City. Lewis?
I'll go 3-1 City.
Ram, welcome, by the way, Ram. Welcome. What's your score prediction, bro?
Yeah, it's good to be here. In terms of today, I think I can't look past City. I'll probably go for 1-0. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Arsenal are going to give City a good game today.
Okay. Jessica Black?
It's going to be 2-2. There's going to need to be a replay.
Oh, Nobbins. What you saying, Nobby boy?
If Arsenal play their full team, 1-0 Arsenal.
I predicted yesterday's score. I'm going to predict it again. I'm saying 2-1 to Arsenal. I think they're going to... That's based on both teams playing strong squads. I will change my mind if I see a weakened teams or whatever, but I think Arsenal are going to do it. And I think this is Arteta's mind games that he did in the build-up. Oh, you're the best team. You're still the acid test for us. He set it up beautifully. So I'm going for an Arsenal win 2-1 tonight. I've got some super chats here. First one says, we've been in the mud so long we don't even have chest, is what Sports Capital says. I don't know who you support, my bro. Maybe you're an Arsenal fan. There's a lot of Arsenal fans with chest at the moment, 100%. Interesting show with Big Steve. Even if he contradicted himself on Zinchenko point. Also, was he getting paid for the "it is how it is"? I don't know what you're talking about at the end. Paid for the...
Was he getting paid by the... Maybe did he say that a lot?
Maybe he says it a lot. I don't know.
Oh, is that his thing? It is what it is. Oh, paid by that. Sorry, I get what you mean there. Sorry, I just totally didn't get that. I didn't pick up on his filler word. I'm going to listen out to it next time now. I didn't know he did it. Caicedo to Arsenal this window equals title secured, is what David believes here. Thank you, David. Star-Lord, one of our members, says, never thought I would say this, but I hope City tonk Arsenal tonight just to humble their fans.
I'm with you, Star-Lord. I'm with you.
It won't change anything. Even if it won't change. They're still top of the league. It won't matter.
At least for a day.
One night.
No, we'll figure out a way to make it into a win, like Man United fans did to us. We beat you guys the other week. Y'all found it. You guys did a good job making that into a win. Got that.
Whether Arsenal sign Caicedo or not, I'm just looking forward to beating City tonight and a few weeks to come in the Prem. Daniel, supremely confident there. This says, while Liverpool are selling Nats to pay for a loan player, obviously talking about what Arsenal are doing with Caicedo. Honestly, here says we can't. Why can't we win the Champions League? We are Champions League royalty, plus Real Madrid ain't looking all that great either. So why not? And we will win 2-1 against Brighton. Look, you may do, my friend. Do you know, I did see a funny meme today about Liverpool, and it was a picture that their big Liverpool account put up at the beginning of January saying, this is our midfield next year. And it was Caicedo, Jude Bellingham, and Enzo Fernandez. It made me laugh. I remember we were at the World Cup, and it was buzzing in that room about the news, like the lot of RGs there, and they were like in the media center, and they were like, yeah, like this news that Liverpool got an agreement in place, and it's going to happen in the summer. That ain't happening either, is it? Anyone see Bellingham going to Liverpool still? Anyone?
Yes.
Wow.
It still
Nobody's
happens.
does.
Even whenever I think the too much twerking, man, it's got to happen. Otherwise,
Yeah, Mudrik says hi. Mudrik says hi. Big up Terry and all. Collecting my daughter a message from the hospital soon. Born on Wednesday. United smash Reading, cup double, and third for Ten Hag is a great season. Firstly, congratulations on the birth of your daughter. It's a very special. Listen, I've got my 2 boys, love them to death, but father and his daughter is a very different relationship for me. Equally as lovely, but different. So congratulations on having that, my friend. And listen, if we win 2 cups and we come third, Ten Hag for manager of the year. Decade. Yeah. Terry's Whittle crush on Jess. I don't have a crush on Jess. I live. Well,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
A crush implies like it's unrequited. It's from afar. It's like I got no chance. Well,
he's trying, guys. He's trying. He's
maybe one day you'll be able to sleep in the bedroom. I don't know. Maybe one day. Do you know what I'm saying? But there we go. Gusto to Chelsea is done.
Apparently it is. Let's go. We got our right back, even if we're sending him straight back.
Oh, yeah, that's come from Fabrice Hawkins. Fabrice Hawkins is fucking legit. This guy, honestly, he's the best journalist there is. When he tweets, it's done. Big up yourself, Fabrice Hawkins.
Is that Fabrizio from Wish?
No, this guy. I don't even know if this guy's verified. This guy, like, he didn't even. I remember he follows me. I've had a few chats with him. He only tweets like 3 or 4 transfers a year, but they're always spot on. So that means Chelsea have got him 110%. It's done if he has tweeted that. Let's move on to the Premier League performances. We'll start with most improved player. Who has been the most improved player this season in the Premier League, Nicks?
I think there's 2. Let's say, to be fair, there's probably 3 candidates. I think Almiron would have been one. I think he hasn't really hit the heights since the World Cup, but he would have been one considering how bad he was and how Newcastle fans felt about him. That probably got her as well. He's obviously carried that form throughout the season so far. But I'm going to go Rashford. I think the level that Rashford's playing at compared to just players in Europe in his position on both sides of the pitch, he's right up there. And considering the season he had last year, the talk at the end of the year, potentially leaving Man United, etc. Yeah, he's on another level. 10 goals in his last 10 games. I think a couple assists in that time. Great goal against Arsenal last week, and a good goal against Nottingham Forest as well. So for me, I'm going to go Rashford. I'm not surprised by the way he's playing, but based on last season, yeah, he's playing the best football I've seen.
Anyone disagree with Rashford and think it should be someone else? Go on, Jay.
I mean, I think going from being a player that nobody rated to somebody that looks like one of the best midfielders in the league, you know.
Somebody you're trying to replace in January?
No. It has to be Granit Xhaka. I just feel like the turnaround is so much bigger than maybe Rashford's, because Rashford was already a player that people really rated. And before his really bad season last season, people thought he was world-class then or on the cusp of it. And he's basically just picked that form back up and took it to a new level. Xhaka's literally went from like enemy number 1 to first name on the team sheet in the team that's leading the league by 5 points. So for me, it has to be Granit Xhaka based on the arc. But if Rashford he's scaring me. Like, I need him to go back to what he was last season. So, like, for real, like, this purple patch has got to end. Okay.
And by the way, this is so far this season. People will obviously do this again at the end of the season. We put a poll up, Xhaka and Rashford up against each other. What are you saying, Nobbins? Who's been the most improved out of the 2? Or do you think somebody else deserves that crown for the halfway point?
I'll do a few shout outs. I think Almiron, I think Joelinton. I think you could say Nick Pope as well. I don't think anyone really expected him to get relegated and then become the best, arguably the best goalkeeper in the Premier League so far this season. From a City perspective, I think you could say Ake's been very good. I'm not going to argue Ake, but I just want to shout him out. But if I had to pick between Rashford and Xhaka, it depends what I mean by most improved, because I think it's been emphasised because Rashford had a big drop last season. And I think that's therefore emphasised him now being so good, whereas Xhaka I think Jess said it myself. I didn't really rate Xhaka that highly. I thought he was someone that Arsenal had to move on to be serious title contenders. He's proved me wrong. So if I had to, just because I think like Rashford's has been increased by the fact that his season last season was so bad for his standards, I think I probably would err on the side of Xhaka, but it's close.
Yeah, we've got a poll running right now on that, and it's at 76% for Xhaka right now.
Maybe if you were an Arsenal fan, maybe we'll get some bloody votes.
I tweeted mine earlier, and I tweeted for Rashford. I just think Xhaka's been great, and there's no doubt that he's up there. But Rashford's goal scoring record is one of the best goal scoring records in English football streaks in English football history. It is. He is the highest. He is the best performing winger out of all wingers in the top 4 leagues. And I only include the top 4 leagues because they're the best 4 leagues. I don't include France because once Mbappe and Messi are not in that league anymore, no one's going to talk about it. So it won't be in the, it only got added when they joined, but he's outperforming everybody in that regard. And the goal scoring run that he's on, if he scores, he plays in the FA Cup game against Reading, or he starts in the game against Forest and scores again, he beats the United's home record, most games scored in the bounce at home. For a record that stood since the 1930s. So for me, that level of, if we're doing individual awards and individual achievements, breaking a record that's nearly 100 years old, it can't be. And he was written off as well. When we say he's a player that was rated, Rashford was the most abused football player in the world 3 years running. That's not someone for me that's highly rated. He's someone who's always been abused, and I'm very glad for him. But I think Xhaka's a great shout as well. Daniel here says, I'm agreeing with Jess on this one. I assumed you would, Daniel, as an Arsenal fan. And that's no cap. I assumed you would. I'm going to come to Ram and Lewis for to start the next one for us. Who would you give your young player of the season to, Lewis?
I feel like it's got to be Saka. Saka's been so influential for Arsenal this season, even in a team of players who have all just been massively overachieving. He's become a lot more decisive in the final third. You can see a massive growth from him from last season to this. And if Arsenal win the league, I think it's just a guarantee for him. But I'd go Bukayo Saka.
Anyone else think anyone else other than Saka?
It's got to be Haaland, hasn't it?
Yeah, I was.
Haaland's still in there.
Haaland is 22. Haaland's 22. He counts as young player of the year. I mean, that's not personally for me, but yeah, he's for me. I think for me, he gets both player of the year and young player of the year. If we're doing like a PFA player of the year kind of thing, I think he sweeps up both. I think he's just been
a lot of people are saying what? You've got to remember, how old is he? 21, Haaland?
He's 22, but he qualifies because you've got to be 22 before the 31st of July, and his birthday's in like the 21st of July, so he qualifies for the award.
Yeah.
So I thought it was.
I forgot about Haaland. I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking Saka, but that's a bloody good show.
He looks like he's 30. Do you know what I mean? That's a problem because he's so big. But I mean, the goal score. I mean, he's gonna break Mo Salah's record with ease. He's probably gonna beat it. I predicted he'd beat it by game week 30. He's probably gonna do it by game week 35. So you think Haaland as well, Ram?
I think he sweeps up both player of the year and young player of the year. Because he's just been that good. He's been supernatural. They're probably the best goal scoring run the Premier League seen, scoring hat tricks every couple of weeks. It's just, didn't he beat Son and Salah's tally from last season as goal scorers?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. I mean, Saka's been amazing. Erdegaard's been amazing, but Haaland's just another level, man. I'm sorry. It is how it is.
You guys, I do have to bounce. So I just need to.
Lewis.
Okay, cheers, Lewis.
Take care, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, bro. Cheers, bro.
I will give. I was thinking Saka all the way, and then I forgot about Haaland. I will give Haaland a young player personally.
It's still Saka for me.
Like, player of the year, but I will give Haaland young player of the year.
It's Saka for me. Like, this is kind of what we expected from Haaland. He's a freak of nature, and like, yes, he's a young player, but like,
that his fault. But that's not his fault because we expected it. We can't.
Okay, but no, let me finish. Saka would be really unfortunate not to get it because Haaland is in the league. But right now, for players that have scored 7 goals plus 7 assists in Europe's top 5 leagues, Messi, Neymar, and that Kvaratskhelia and Saka are the only players to do that. So Haaland's basically doing his job. He's doing a supernatural job doing it. But Saka would be so unfortunate because he's doing things that I mean, Neymar and Messi are the only other players doing that right now for players that are not naturally strikers or anything like that. So it would be unfortunate. Haaland's amazing. Like, we get it. He's a cyborg. He's amazing. But Saka is just, he's went to another level, and it can't be overlooked, really.
The only reason why I wouldn't have that sympathy, because it reminds me of 2018, because Kevin De Bruyne was on a madness that season, but so was Mohamed Salah, and Salah broke the goal scoring record. I think De Bruyne might have broken like the assist, not the assist record. He might have broken his own record, but that's why I'd say Haaland's doing supernatural stuff and breaking records and is looking to break another record. And like Saka's been amazing, but if you're going on individual performances, Haaland just about edges Saka for me. But
yeah, I mean, if Saka loses out to Haaland, then that's losing out to Haaland. Like, it just is what it is. It doesn't mean Saka's not absolutely out of this world as well. So it's fair enough.
No,
Yeah. If Haaland breaks Andy Cole and Shearer's record of 34 goals in a season, let's say he gets 40, you can't not give it to him. Like that would be mental to not give it to him just by default.
I think what they'll end up doing, though, because the way they do this is to keep multiple facts. Because I always feel if you qualify for Young Player of the Year and you win Player of the Year, you should win both. It doesn't make sense if you qualify for Young Player and you win Player of the Year to not win both. It's always confused me. It's never made any sense personally, like, to do that. I kind of ignored Haaland in all my predictions. I was thinking more about how players have kind of impacted teams and improved them. And I think Saka got my vote for Young Player of the Year, but that was mainly because I wasn't thinking of Haaland being so young, if I'm being absolutely honest. And who I picked for my Player of the Year, I'm just talking about the way he's led his team as an example. But the viewers are voting. Currently, 70% are saying Saka on that one as it stands right now.
Only thing Arsenal fans can win.
What?
When was your last league title? How many Champions League? That's what I want to know.
The next topic we're going to go into, Neeks, who's been the manager of the year so far for you?
It has to be Arteta. Newcastle, and I mean, maybe I'm contradicting myself. We're talking about right now, and I was going to say if Newcastle finish in the top 4, then you might give it to Eddie Howe. But I actually don't have Newcastle finishing in the top 4 even at this stage. They've kind of hit a bit of a wall scoring goals recently, and I think Man United will finish above them. If we don't, I'll be very, very disappointed. And I think Spurs might do it as well, especially if they get a couple signings by the end of the window. Arteta is going to win the league as far as I'm concerned. They're in a better position to win the league than Newcastle are to get top 4, and based on that, with the points that they're going to get, we're talking 90 points at least. I think you have to. I think it'll be so harsh. And usually, to be fair, I usually look at the overachieving manager more than the title-winning manager. But I'm not doing both. They're winning the title and they're massively overachieving. Like, this is massive. Don't get it twisted. Some Arsenal fans will say, no, we will always go in this trajectory. Yeah, not in 1 year from what happened last year. No way, Jose. Like, it was never happening. They've gone from 5th, threw away top 4, 3 losses in a row. Arteta should have been sacked. And how the hell did he get 100K a week deal to 5 points clear with Man City?
Yeah,
like,
I didn't see the vision, Neeks. You didn't have the vision.
No, Jess, nobody. I'm not gonna say nobody. Nobody had Arsenal.
I don't know how you could see it.
Nah, Jess, did you
both of y'all need a new prescription on them glasses?
No, Jess, did you see Arsenal winning the league this season? You cannot tell me at the start of the season you said Arsenal were going to win the league this season.
When we beat Chelsea in preseason, I knew we had something. I knew it.
Yeah, do you know what? Look, you can't look beyond him. I think it's one of those things where if it stays as things are now, then yes, we all know it will come down to, for me, it's you do look at overachievers, you look at who wins the most trophies come the end of the season. Because again, as you said earlier, if Arsenal fall away and come second and don't win a trophy, he won't win Manager of the Year. It's about adding those trophies to it. But what a start he's had. Nobody would have predicted this. I think it's the 4th best start to a league campaign in the history of English football. And you're talking a couple of points away from the best. It's kind of crazy, really. Eddie Howe's a really good shout, I think, as well. But would everybody be in agreement right now? It's Arteta.
Can I give a little honourable mention to Thomas Frank? because I think what he's doing with Brentford is very, very good. It's incredible, actually. Because if you look at Brentford's team, their big summer signing was Mikel Damsgaard, and he barely plays. Well, he doesn't play a lot, and he's not really their main talisman. I think a lot of credit got to go to Thomas Frank, and I think only City, Newcastle, and Arsenal are the only teams that have lost less than Brentford this season.
Yeah, they've done fantastically well.
But it is
I get
Arteta.
Who, Jess? Who would be your underachievers? Who would be the biggest underachievers? That could literally be a player, a whole team, a manager, or a manager. Like, who
Rip
would you
off the
say?
Band-Aid, Jess. Rip it off. Just say it, man.
It's gotta be Liverpool, man. It has to be. It's just, like, with the quality that you guys have from going from all those finals and almost doing the quad to what it is now. I mean, it is outstanding how weird Liverpool, so it has to be Liverpool. But Klopp said it takes time to rebuild, so let's see how long it takes.
What are you saying, Jess? You had the 2020 vision, Jess. You saw this from 2 years ago.
I sure did. There is video evidence of me saying it just happened a year later. But I saw this.
It's the wrong season, isn't it?
Yeah.
But,
I voted Liverpool, but I've got to give an honourable mention to Tottenham because.
No, you expect them to be this way. You can't.
No,
yeah, but you expected it to be that way.
Please, JJ, you've just ruined the cooking. Let me cook here. Let me cook. Come on, that big mouth, right? What I'm saying is, I get it. It just maybe be expected, but it's big underachievement based on what they said. This was a team 8 games ago, Jay, that was saying, well, if Arsenal are in a title race, so are we. It's our greatest ever start. They had their greatest ever start to a league campaign. And now they're dropping like a stone with like a couple of wins in the last 10 games. For me, Liverpool are the biggest underachievers. But based on the big mouths, based on the attitude, based on winning the transfer window, based on predicting, on this show, Spurs fans predicting finishing 10 points in front of Arsenal. They're an honourable mention, Tottenham as well. They definitely are.
I can't see that because everybody, and even the logical Tottenham fans, the very few logical Tottenham fans, said that it was unsustainable what they're doing. It's only the illogical, the delusional Tottenham fans who try to pull the wool around over their eyes and say, "Oh, we're coming back and winning games." That
Patrick, Ram's sending for you, Patrick. Ram is sending.
I'm just saying how it is. And literally everyone on the terrace, that supported arrival of Tottenham, said it is unsustainable, and we're like, here, there's literal evidence of saying that it's unsustainable, but they just didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I can't really say they've underachieved because we all expected it to happen. Tottenham fans can say that because they were stupid about it, but I think for all of us, for me, for everyone, it should be Liverpool. As a Liverpool fan, I'm saying straight up, we are the biggest underachievers in the Premier League. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, you definitely are. Who would you say, Jess, are the biggest overachievers?
The biggest overachievers are Newcastle. I would say based on the squad that they have, they haven't brought in any sparkly, like any players that are like, oh yeah, like nobody even talks about Botman, but he probably has been one of the best center backs in the league. Their signings have been astute, like they haven't been too flashy about it. They just went about their business. And for Eddie Howe to take players like, and this is no shade, maybe a little bit, but Joe Linton and Almiron and Murphy. I mean, Murphy was doing this to a player the other day. Like, they're just like, it's insane.
In fairness, the player should have headbutted him. If any grown man said that to me, I'm going to headbutt him.
The cheek, like that's why I'm just like, I think it has to be Newcastle. I know some people will say Arsenal because if you rate our players or not, you'll think they're overachieving. But for me, it's Newcastle based on where they came from.
What are you saying, Nobbins?
I think Newcastle is a good shout. I do probably agree with it. But I think I probably would also shout out Brighton, who are currently ahead of both Liverpool and Chelsea, and they lost their some of their best players in the transfer window. and they lost their manager, and that they're still going from strength to strength. So I'd maybe be tempted to say Brighton. I think that Fulham, probably a really good shout.
That's a shout.
I was
Newly
gonna say
promoted
Fulham.
side.
Newly
and,
promoted, man. That's crazy.
And
Would have went fourth, right? If they're fifth, if they had beat Spurs, they would have went fifth or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think they've got to get a shout out as well. To be honest, like Marco Silva's not had the best reputation in the Premier League with like Watford and Everton. So for a newly promoted side to come to the Premier League and do that, it's pretty astounding.
I think they're all great shouts, and I think I voted for Newcastle when I tweeted out. I just feel like losing one game, it was just there. And like with Arsenal, there were some Arsenal fans that predicted a title challenge this year. There were a lot predicted top four and being vastly improved. They have overachieved Arsenal, but I just don't remember anybody talking about Newcastle being where they would be now. And they look like they're going to sustain, for me, at least a top 5 stroke top 6 finish. And I kind of feel like that's brilliant from their point of view. Another honourable shout out, though, I also think, and this is more a dig at rivals, is Man United. You know, we're sitting where we are in the league. Yes, we've got a good squad and a brilliant manager, and we spent money. But I remember every prediction show I watched on other channels. I remember the live event we did at the Terrace, where the highest prediction anybody gave us was 6. Most people were saying between 7th and 8th, some saying 10th. Everyone, after those first 2 games, everyone wrote us off. Even 6 episodes ago on the top 6, I remember asking the panel, do you think Man United can make the top 4? And it got a universal no from everybody on the panel. So I think Man United are a shout out as well. When people say United aren't overachieving, you've got to base it on what, like Jess was right, by the way, where Spurs are was right. I was just trying to make a joke. And Jess has a habit of when I'm about to make a joke, speaking. It's all good. It's all fun. But the point is, United can't be overachieving or are overachieving because you all predicted us to be a lot worse than this. So if you said we're coming 6th and we're currently sitting 4th, probably going to be coming 3rd, playing football the way we are improving, we're overachieving based on what you all predicted. We're not saying we're overachieving. The way I know what you're doing, we're not overachieving for a club our size, but we're talking about this season in isolation. To say United aren't overachieving, I think it's disrespectful. But yeah, I think Newcastle have won that. And finally, the big one, people. Who is your player of the year, Ram? Who's been the best player so far in the Premier League?
I said it already. I'll say it again. It's Erling Haaland. The closest player to him, I'd say, is Martin Odegaard, his fellow Norwegian compatriot. But for me, Haaland has just been cut above everybody else. And his goal scoring records, his feats, scoring hat tricks and everything. Has he broken like the record of hat tricks in a season or something?
No,
He's one off equaling it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's equaling it. So it says that says it all, man. Like it for me is Haaland. Shout out to Odegaard, been a great player.
Because
This
he's a
season.
tap-in merchant. That's what it tells me.
I mean, you make your own luck, and if you have world class positioning, you get those tap-ins. So that's how I see it. So for me, yeah, Haaland. But shout out Odegaard. He's been sick as well, man. He's been sick.
I'm going Odegaard. I went Haaland young player, and I think that's fair. I think Arsenal will win the league from the position that we're in, 5 points clear of a game in hand. Odegaard has been the best player on the best team in the league and captain. He has literally led this team to this position. I'm not saying it's a one-man marching band, but he has been the leader, the driving force behind where they are right now. And if he continues this to the end of the season, he will be let's say the biggest reason, other than Arteta, the biggest reason for Arsenal winning the league. Not to take away from Saka, not to take away from Partey, Ramsdale, whatever. But I put winning. I put the task of winning to a high level, I have a high regard. And if you can lead a team to the trophy, I think that's more impressive than just, I know it's an individual award, but just your individual performance. I'm not saying Haaland's the reason why City might not win the league, but ultimately, if his goals end up with City finishing second, was his performances more important? Were his goals more important than what Odegaard is doing? You have to say no. So based on that, I will go Odegaard.
What are you saying, Nobbins? Odegaard, Haaland, or someone else?
Obviously, shout out Odegaard and Saka, but I can't look past Erling Haaland. He's played 19 games and he scored 25 goals. and he scored 4 hat-tricks, and he scored 3 consecutive home hat-tricks, and he's beaten the person who got to 4 hat-tricks, the quickest, Ruud van Nistelrooy, by about 40 games. And his performances and goals have been masking some very tepid Manchester City performances. I don't buy this weird narrative that Haaland's made City worse. That's lazy, and in my opinion, if anything, I think it's the opposite. If we're to assume that if he scores at the same rate, he'll score 50 goals. If it gets to like 40, I don't really know what argument you can make against it, because he would have broken Salah's record by 8 goals, and he'll have broken Andy Cole and Alan Shearer's record by 6 goals when Shearer and Cole played in a league where they had more games to play. So I don't really understand how you can look past him to people who say, oh, tapping merchant. That to me tells you don't actually understand football, because there is no such thing as a tapping merchant at this level of the game. If it was as easy as, oh, I'll just stand in front of the goal and score some goals, then City wouldn't have bothered signing Erling Haaland. They would have just signed some random Donny from the academy, but that isn't how it works, because it's called go back and watch Haaland. If you genuinely think that Haaland's a tapping merchant, go back and watch his goals and notice how he creates his own space by his very subtle but very intelligent movement and positioning. It's not a coincidence that he's always in the right place at the right time for a, quote, tap in. It's because he's created that space himself. He's created that goal for himself. He creates space for others. So yeah, that's my rant.
I hear you on that. Jess, I assume I know who you're going for.
I'm so upset. Like, this should be like our thing. Like, it should just be clean sweep like Arsenal. But because City have this freak up top, it's like he gets to win everything because he's a freak of nature. But I'm going Odegaard because that's just what I want to do. I don't care about Erling Haaland, what he's doing. As far as you guys are, like, as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't exist. Odegaard, watch him score a hat trick tonight. Oh my God, because I said that. Okay. So Odegaard has been absolutely insane. And I'm so bitter that that guy is there. I'm just gonna call him that guy from now on. That guy.
But I mean, me and Nobbins can relate, because whenever City have won the league, a Liverpool player won Player of the Year. Whenever we won the league, well, that time we won the league, City.
Once in 30 years.
The one time we won the league,
I
was
do.
a City player that got it.
I get what Jess is saying. Man United won a fucking treble, and David Ginola won Player of the Year. It didn't even make sense. The irony is, we had so many people that could have won it that year for what they did in the Prem, what they did. It was one of those years where the whole team, the 11 PFA, it should have been Man United players. Like, if you're going to go with who actually were the best, but no one outperformed us that year anywhere, at any point.
Can I say one?
Yeah, go on.
The only thing I want to say is, like, I know people in the comments are like, just get real. Like, I am real. I understand that, like, Haaland does win everything because he's been absolutely insane. What I'm saying is that it's just so unfortunate because some of our players are playing absolutely insane right now, but nobody's going to care. Like, it's like Harry Kane. Harry Kane is having a really good season for Spurs, but nobody cares because Haaland is doing Haaland things. So I'm not saying Haaland shouldn't win it. I expect him to win almost everything by the end of the season. But it's just, I feel it's unfortunate for our players because I think they're playing amazing.
No, so, I totally agree. It's a comment here from Mo. It's true. David Beckham nearly won the Ballon d'Or in the 98-99 season, but yet he couldn't win PFA Player of the Year. It's crazy. It was amazing. My top 3, I mean, I voted Odegaard on my list based on what Neek said, so I'm not going to repeat it. My top 3 players of the year, though, if I was to hand out the trophy today, in 3rd place, I'd have Casemiro. 2nd place, I'd have Haaland. And then in 1st place, I would have Odegaard. That's as of now. Again, these are going to change, man. I mean, if City go on to win the league and Haaland keeps scoring, I mean, it is a clean sweep. He will take young player, old player, the greatest. I mean, he'll probably take the GOAT trophy. You know, he scores 50 league goals and wins the Prem. They'll just go, listen, Henry, we're taking that back as well, brother. No, it's not real, but we're just taking it and we're giving it to him. He's going to get all of it if he does that. But yeah, Odegaard's leadership it's one of those things. It's almost intangible. You can't measure it with a statistic as such. But the way Arsenal are playing, the togetherness, all of that has been key. And by the way, I agree with you, Nobbins. This tapping merchant nonsense. It's don't make your own football knowledge look shit by calling him a tapping merchant. Ian Wright, especially Arsenal fans that are doing it. Ian Wright spoke about how he had this innate instinct of being in the right place at the right time to score goals that other people didn't. Now, Haaland is another level above Ian Wright at doing that, but it's a skill that very few players have. And if they did, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Why run around doing skills and everything else if you can just be in the right place at the right time? Like, I almost feel like you're more intelligent a footballer if you can find the place to stand and quote tap it in than having to get it at the edge of the box and dribble past 3 people and blast it into the roof of the net. Like, I'd rather not do that, but that's just me.
But Terry, you can't explain that to someone that doesn't want to hear it, man.
No, I get that. One final question for you all. Player-wise, who's the flop of the season, Jess? Who's been the worst player in the Premier League this year, considering what we expected to what we're getting?
Son. It has to be. Like, first person that came to my mind, flashing in front of my face, I'm like, Son. Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, the story, like, you went from, you know, winning the Golden Boot to being a player that they're trying to replace with Danjuma of all people. Like, he's been terrible. It's so weird because I do feel like, you know, after the Leicester game, people had said like he was back. And I was like, let's just let it cook for a second because Leicester are diabolically bad at the back. And it's proven to be true. Son is just fallen off of the cliff. And I don't know if he'll come back because he's not the youngest either. So for me, it has to be Son. I don't think there's anybody else you can really give it to. I've seen some other names down there. You guys can talk about those, but it has to be Son, right?
I think Son, for existing Premier League players, I think everyone would agree he's just been dire. And I mean, he has, like, Mo Salah hasn't been great in months, but he still scored and created 23 goals. So he's done something still. Who would you say, Neeks, would be the flop based on signings only? So new signings only.
New signings. I guess the easy one is Nunes, but I don't know.
Is it though, Neeks?
That's the easy one. No, I think it's the easy one, but there must be a Chelsea.
I mean, you got Koulibaly.
Bro, honestly, I would be going with Richarlison, you know.
No, I wouldn't go.
60 M's, man.
60 M, he ain't scored.
Aubameyang. It's Aubameyang.
Yeah, I like that.
No, I'll tell you what Aubameyang. Because they signed him and they thought this is like, we're going to get one over on Arsenal. We're going to show you that you were the reason why. Out with Lukaku, in with Aubameyang. He's been worse. He's been worse than the guy that you lot hounded out. I say hounded out, he wanted out. He's been worse. He's not even starting and you ain't got a striker. Like, that's how, like, Richarlison, as bad as he might have been, or, you know, statistically anyway, Spurs fans are like, get him on this pitch. Son needs to be dropped. Nobody's calling for Aubameyang to get on that pitch. I think it has to be him. And he probably was the cheapest of all the signings this summer. I'm not, yeah. Leave my guy, leave my pigeon guy, Richarlison alone, man.
I hear you on that. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely there. I think, I mean, Basuma's a lot of people saying Basuma, Koulibaly. I'm saying, obviously, we're seeing Anthony, but again, Anthony's done more than Richarlison, so he can't be. It just doesn't make, done more than Son. He can't be. Like, it just doesn't work like that. I know.
What's happened to Calvin?
Calvin Phillips is a great shout. What a shocker that's been. Barely played, always injured, and when he did come back, man was fat.
Nobbins.
We stand Nobbins. How impressive you been with Phillips?
Well, just before I go on Phillips, my suggestion was going to be maybe Cucurella for Chelsea. Big money, and every time I've seen him, he's been poor. I know it's early days, maybe it's not fair to judge, but you asked for a new signing. Yeah, Phillips is an easy one. I genuinely forgot that he played for look, he has been unfortunate. He signed for us, and I think like he like dislocated his shoulder pre-season. He had to have surgery on that, so he basically missed all of the season before the World Cup, and they did come in against Southampton, and it wasn't just his fault. That was the worst game from a number of City players that day. But yeah, so I think Phillips is probably a decent shout, but he wasn't brought in unlike, you know, the likes of like Cucurella, for example, who you'd expect, or Koulibaly, who you'd expect to start and be into the team. Phillips was only ever brought in to be a deputy to Rodri anyway. and him being rubbish hasn't really impacted City anyway. So, and also mitigating circumstances because of the injury. But yeah, my shout would be Cucurella.
It's a great one. It's a great shout.
And
A comment
they
here from
stole him
Biden.
from City as well, isn't it? Like, after all of that.
Yeah. Terry, City will win 3-0 or more today. I will come back during the post-game show. Also, a big shout out to Stones, the best centre back in the world right now, is what Bison Beast has got to say here. 3+ nil win for City. I mean, that's a big prediction. Arsenal have gone weak tonight and heavily rotated. Is the team news out, Jess?
Yeah, I think it is out.
Mm.
Yeah. I've seen some of the lineup.
The official? I don't know if the official one's out yet, is it?
No, the official one's not out, but we have rotated. But our starting midfield, Partey and Xhaka are starting. Trossard is starting, and we've rotated a little bit at the back. But yeah.
But it's still like it's not like 3 or 4 or 5 youth players starting type thing.
No, I mean that's what we like. We were gonna rotate, but we were never gonna go kids. So that's for me. What we've done is not heavily rotated. It's more like rotated, if that makes sense. But
you just got like a couple of fringe players in there, but they're mostly strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, 2 or more of our main midfielders is strong to me, and it seems like Arteta knows, but yeah, the only thing that I'm a little bit like is holding at the back. I'm like, yeah, we're going to hold at least 2 goals for sure.
Have faith. You might get clean sheet.
No faith, man.
We'll see. Listen, I want to say a big thank you to everybody that's tuned in today. Everyone who's hit a like button, super chatted, and all of that. Ram, it's a pleasure to have you on again. Nobbins, of course, Neeks and Jessica Black. I want to say a big shout out to Premzy and Callum and Lewis, who started the show with us as well. We're back later tonight for a match reaction after the game, so make sure you're here on the terrace. Until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.